We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast brought to you by our great friends at Alumni Hall. And guys, I was just in store here in Athens over the weekend, and I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you will not find a better selection of Georgia gear anywhere out there. So make sure to check out Alumni Hall for all your 2025 Georgia football game day gear needs. And it's game week, y'all. It is Georgia football game week. We have been waiting 9 miserably long months for this week, and it is finally here. And with that season opener now just a few short days away, it's time to unveil my final depth chart projection for this 2025 Georgia football team. So that is the mission here today. But before we get there, guys, if you are a diehard Georgia fan, you have not already, go ahead, do yourself a solid, subscribe to this channel right now, hit those notifications, because everything we do here is truly designed for all you Georgia diehards, and we're going to have you guys covered in a way that no one else will throughout the entirety of the 2025 season and beyond. So thank you in advance for that, guys. Our goal was 3,000 subscribers by the time the season got here. We blew past that number. We set a new goal of 3,500, and now we're just about 50 or so-ish away from that number. So go ahead, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, it's a huge help as we continue to grow this channel. So thank you all very, very much. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. All right. This is version 3.0 of my 2025 Georgia football depth chart projection. For those of you who've been with us for a while, you know that I did my initial way too early depth chart projection at the end of January. It's always a fun exercise right after the season's ended, kind of looking ahead. We have this long off season, but hey, let's talk some real football in late January, right? So we did that back then. Then we did version 2.0, which was our post-spring practice depth chart projection. We did one for offense, we did one for defense, and now here we are, just a few days away. It is time for that final depth chart projection, version 3.0. And guys, we're going big. That's how we do it here on the Glory UJ podcast. This channel is not for the faint of heart. It's not for casual fans. There's plenty of outlets out there for them. This is for you diehards. So I am going to be giving you my depth chart projections, my two deep, at least two deep, maybe a little bit more for some other positions where I think multiple guys are going to play. But we're going to go over every single position on this football team with a little bit of a twist this time. With version 1.0 in January, 2.0 in what, late April, early April-ish, mid-April-ish, with the post-spring stuff. I'm going to give you guys a confidence rating for each of these projections on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so 10 being I am extremely confident. Go ahead and write it in pen, book it. That guy is starting. And 1 being, I don't know, man. This is a total wild guess, just throwing darts against the wall. Okay, so put a little twist on it here, and because there's some of these I do feel really confident in, and I'm gonna lie, guys, some of them I don't fully know yet because I've gotten some conflicting information. Maybe one guy started the first scrimmage, maybe one guy started the second scrimmage. There's a variety of reasons out there, but I want to give you guys a little bit of a confidence rating for each of these projections. So with that, guys, let's jump in. We got to go through every position, offense, and defense. We don't want to waste any time. Let's start with the quarterback position. Guys, I'm going to make this really easy for you. Back in January, I said Gunnar Stockton is going to be the guy coming into the spring. Definitely, no doubt. But Ryan Puglisi might have had a bit of a window, a chance to maybe make a push, impress the coaches, a chance to make his case in the spring, but that didn't happen. Puglisi has gotten better, guys. Puglisi has certainly improved throughout the course of the spring, now throughout fall camp. He's gotten better and better. But Gunnar, from day one in spring practice to where we are now, going into game week against Marshall, he has consistently been the guy. Yes, Puglisi has gotten better, but you know what? Gunnar Stockton has also gotten better because now he's getting reps with the number, like the majority of the reps with the number one offense for the first time in his career. And of course, that's going to accelerate your development now going to year 4 in the system. I still do think that Puglisi long term has better physical tools, maybe a higher upside, higher ceiling than Gunnar Stockton does. He's just not there at this point. Just remember, guys, Puglisi really just got through going through his first real spring practice, at least like taking reps, his first fall camp taking reps. He was banged up this time last year, guys. It wasn't until about mid-season-ish of last year where he was actually like taking reps with our scout team. So he's a work in progress, but the skills are obvious. They're tantalizing. And I firmly believe that he will be the thing of that competition for that starting quarterback job in the post-Gunner era. There with obviously Jared Curtis. Ryan Montgomery, by the way, the true freshman who missed the spring because he was coming off an ACL injury they suffered at the beginning of his senior season. He's also had a really strong fall camp, like far stronger than I thought he would at this point, considering he didn't do anything live in the spring. So he's kind of developed into a strong three there. But it's Gunnar Stockton as the starter, Ryan Puglisi right now as the backup, and that's pretty clear. I don't want to spend too much time on this because that's just the situation as it is right now. And I know a lot of you are still very skeptical on Gunnar Stockton, so you were kind of hoping, man, I hope Puglisi can make a run here. And I get it because I do think he has a higher upside long term than Gunnar does, but he's just not as close to his upside as Gunnar is to his right now, if that makes sense. And if you haven't seen Gunnar live since, I guess, January in the Sugar Bowl, by the way, I thought he really acquitted himself admirably in that game. He didn't play perfect, but Gunnar did everything we needed him to do to give us a chance to win that game. We didn't lose that Sugar Bowl game to Notre Dame because of Gunnar Stockton. He did everything he needed to do in his first career start against a really good defense, a team that played for the national title a couple of weeks later. But if you haven't seen him since that time, guys, my history of Gunnar, I mean, those who've been with the podcast for a long time, you don't need me to tell you. I've gone over this many a time. This time last year, I was very skeptical. I went to a fall camp practice last year, and one of the takeaways I had coming out of that was like, oh my God, Carson Beck, please don't get hurt because Gunnar is not ready right now. He's inaccurate. He seemed like he was thinking too much out there, making poor decisions. I didn't feel great at that moment. So when he went in against Texas in the SEC championship game, I was kind of like, oh my God, all right. Let's just see what happens. Man, it wasn't perfect, but he did a really great job, obviously leading us to that comeback win against Texas for the SEC title. Again, I thought he played really well against Notre Dame, all things considered. So he made me more believer late last season. And so I went into the spring like, okay, I I feel better about Gunnar, but let's see. Let's see what he's got. So I saw a couple practices, and I'm telling you, at practice, I was like, all right, this is a different guy. This is a different dude right now. You see Majide fully in control out there. One thing he has done well since he first started playing late last year, continues to do well, is he throws the vertical ball very well. He's very accurate down the field, and that's great when you have, as we're talking about our receivers here in a few minutes, a number of receivers that can go up and just get the football. We did it at G-Day. We've been doing it in practice, spring, fall camp. And that's something he does very, very well, which really meshes with what our receivers bring to the table. So I have certainly come around to Gunnar Stockton. I'm a believer in him. As I've said all offseason long, I think the floor is high with Gunnar. I don't think in any world he face plants. I just still don't know what the ceiling is, right? I think that's to be determined, and we're about to find out, y'all. I know we probably won't find out fully week 1, not even week 2 against Austin Peay. Hey, Tennessee week 3, that's coming up real quick. So we'll find out pretty quickly here. But going into the season, Gunnar's a guy. Puglisi is that solid backup as the second guy in our 2 deep. All right, let's go to the wide receivers. Guys, I've said it so many times this offseason, but I know some of you are newer to this show, to this podcast, and I want to make sure that I say it again for anyone who's just tuning in for the first time. I could not be higher on Georgia's wide receiver unit coming into this season. That's coming from somebody who, I don't want to say I killed our wide receivers last year, but I was highly critical throughout the season of what we were seeing from our wide receiver play. Certainly Carson Beck wasn't the same version of Carson we saw in 2023. Receivers didn't help, guys. We just had a general lack of playmakers out wide. We couldn't generate enough explosive plays. Yeah, Arius Smith could hit some vertical shots every now and then, but too many drops, none of guys making plays, not enough guys scaring teams on the outside. They felt confident being able to match up with us one-on-one on the outside, allowing them to load the box, take away our run game, and just create all sorts of havoc for the Georgia offense. And that was a big part, not the only part, but a big part of why we struggled so much offensively last year. So for me, priority number 1 going into the offseason for our coaching staff was fix the receiver room. And clearly they were of the same mind because that's exactly what they went into. They spent pretty heavily in the transfer portal, going out and getting a guy like Zachariah Branch from USC, who is still a work in progress as a receiver, but the athleticism, the skill set is tantalizing, right? You go out and get a guy like Noah Thomas, who wasn't wildly productive at A&M, but the skill set is there, guys, and he just really held back, in my opinion, by for us last year was lack of wide receiver play. For A&M for a couple of years, it's been a lack of quarterback play that's held that offense back. So you go out and get those two guys, and you bring a guy like Colby Young back, who missed half of last year with the off-the-field issues that have now been cleared up, thank God. And all of a sudden, you have the makings of a really, really strong wide receiver, and especially when you infuse that room with an incredible abundance of young talent coming out of the high school ranks. So at the X receiver position, oh, by the way, I told you I'd give my confidence ranking. My confidence ranking for the quarterback position is a 10. Gunner is going to start week one. Zero questions asked. Just that is how it is. Gunner 10. Ryan Palusa is the backup. That's also a 10 in the confidence prediction. All right. X receiver. Now, I've said before, I'll say it again. I think that Colby Young and Noah Thomas are kind of interchangeable. I think they both can play X. They can both play Z if needed. So I think we're going to have both of them on the field at the same time to open games. That was the way it was at G-Day. I anticipate that being the way it is against Marshall here in a couple of days. Now, who starts at X, who starts at Z? Again, that's harder to say because I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't had a chance to get out there to one of the fall camp practices. I was out there in the spring a couple times, out there at G-Day. Haven't been out there this fall, so I'm relying on what people have told me. So I'm hearing like secondhand information. And, Kirby Smart, obviously himself, talking at the Athens Touchdown Club last week. But I haven't seen my own two eyes. But my projection right now, I'm going to go with a 9 on this because, like, these two guys I'm confident will start. It's just who's at X, who's at Z. Colby Young right now is my projection based off what I saw at G-Day. I know it was a while ago, but when I saw at G-Day, he was out there with the number one offense as the starting X receiver, 6'3", 215 pounds, a guy who I thought was on the verge of becoming the guy for Georgia at receiver last year. If you remember the Alabama game, late in that game, who were we going to when we needed plays late in that game to try to win the football game? Yeah, we were trying to feed Colby Young. That doesn't happen by accident, guys. He was banged up about midway through fall camp last year. That kind of cost him some reps with Carson back. And yes, he played against Clemson week one, actually scored a touchdown that game, but was still kind of working back from injury. And it took him a little while. But by the time we got to Alabama, like he was starting to become that guy. Then obviously shortly after that, he's gone for the rest of the season. And I think that really, really hurt the Georgia offense. But he is back in a big way. He's now in year 2 in the Georgia system. Yeah, he missed a chunk of time last year, but now he's gone through 2 spring practices, 2 fall camps to Georgia. He was back for bowl practices last year, late in the season. This is the guy at receiver for Georgia, in my opinion. I think we have a number of guys that are going to be big-time playmakers for Georgia receiver, but he's the one that's got the most experience. He's the leader in that receiver room, and he has been the one I've probably heard the most consistent buzz about going back from fall camp or going back to spring practice through fall camp. I've heard a lot about different receivers, as we've talked about here on this show. But Colby Young's the one that I've heard about most consistently. When I've seen him, he's a guy that stood out to me as the most consistent guy. Now, does he have the highest ceiling of the guys in the room? Probably not, but I don't think he's crazy far off from that. But I do think his combination of ability and experience in the system, he's going to start for Georgia at the X receiver position. So I'm going to go with a 10 there. And behind him, again, I think Noah Thomas and Colby Young are kind of interchangeable. If you want to rotate guys in and out, I think Noah could play X as well. Maybe he can slide in there and play some reps from time to time. I think behind those two, though, the guy I'm looking at the X receiver position, which, by the way, guys, that's typically where you want to put like your alpha receiver, right? The bigger guy who can get off the press a little bit better. I think C.J. Wiley, true freshman out of Milton High School, who had a monster second scrimmage last Saturday. This guy went off, and I said it here on the show last week, but if you missed it, went for I had 2 different people tell me. One guy said he went for over 200. One guy said he went for about 250. So somewhere between 200 and 250 yards-ish, but just went bananas at the scrimmage last week. Now, that was the second team and third team offense. He's not a threat to start right now, but this guy is going to be in the rotation. He's too talented not to be. He's still learning. He's young, right? But when I saw him this spring, you can see this guy, the ability to make plays is there. At this level, I have no question about that. It's just the consistency of knowing what to do down in and down out, and being a technician down in and down out. Because of the freshmen that came in, him and Talon Taylor, which we'll get to in a minute, Wiley, I think, might have a higher upside than Taylor long term down the road. He just wasn't as polished coming into college. So it was Taylor who had the bigger fall camp earlier, but lately C.J. Wiley's also started to come along and building some buzz as well. So I just think he's more of an X receiver body at 6'4", 195, 200 pounds. And I think as the season goes on, you're going to see more and more from these freshman receivers. But I think they're going to be a part of the rotation early and often and get opportunities. And I am sky high on what C.J. Wiley can be. I watched him in high school, at Milton High School a ton of times. This guy's the real deal. A little thin, got to get a little bigger, but man, his ability to go up and high point the football, win those 50-50 balls, really good speed in that frame as well. That guy is an X receiver all the way. So I would have him right there by Colby Young and Noah Thomas. At the Z receiver spot, I'm going to go with a 9 in my confidence rating again here because, again, Colby Young, Noah Thomas, interchangeable there. But I'm going to go with Noah Thomas based off what I saw at G-Day coming out there with the number one offense at that Z receiver spot. This guy just gives us something we don't really have in this receiver. We have some big guys. C.J. Wiley is 6'4", Colby Young is 6'3", 215. Those guys are big dudes. Those are bigger receivers we had last year to operate with. But Noah Thomas is on a different level. This guy's 6'6", 6'6", 200 pounds, and a long 6'6". And on top of that, guys, a lot of times you see guys that are 6'6". It's like, cool, like, you're really long, you can go up and you can win those 50-50 balls, but you like not always the greatest athletes, not always the fastest guys. Not the case, Noah Thomas. This guy's a legit athlete, got really good speed. Yeah, a little bit of a longer strider, but he moves really well. He's got a little, he's not the twitchiest guy. He's not Zechariah Branch level twitch, but he's got some twitchiness for a guy that's 6'6" out there. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the Arkansas game from last year, guys. The touchdown catch, that was his biggest game of the year last year. If you go back and you watch that game, and you can just pull up the highlights if you want to watch the full game, the touchdown catch he had on that play was a work of art, man. It was a thing of beauty. He goes out there, is about a 15-yard deep out. So 15 yards, he's pressing the DB, like he's going vertical. And then about at 15 yards, he plants his foot, flips his hips real quick, darts to the outside. Did it so well that it had the DB turning in circles, literally turning in circles. Catching the football, create separation with his route running ability, and then his athleticism kicks into high gear, and he just turns the burners on, and nobody catches him. He runs for another 30, 35 yards for a touchdown, just leaves everybody in the dust. That's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, we know you can go up and get the 50-50 ball. Like, he is that contested catch kind of guy, but he's more than just that. So I am very high on what Noah Thomas can do. Early on in fall camp, this was the receiver that I was hearing a ton about. I didn't hear as much about him in the spring. Now, when I was out there at practice and I watched him, I was like, whoa, 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 this guy is a crazy playmaker. But again, like some of the young guys new to our system, he was learning our terminology, our playbook, all those things. And so it's not always consistent. But he went through that learning period in the spring, came out early in the fall, and was just making play after play after play. And that never really abated throughout the entirety of fall camp. So I expect Noah Thomas to be another big-time player for Georgia at wide receiver, in my estimation, at that Z receiver spot. Now, behind him, I'm going to go with Dylan Bell. Now, could Dylan be the guy to start at Z? Yeah, he could be. Dylan could also be the guy to start at the slot. We'll get that here in a minute. But Dylan's going to be a guy that we use in a variety of roles this year. I'm going to go back to the spring, guys. I'm telling you, at practice, that we were using this guy at running back, okay? Now, he wasn't consistently playing running back. It's not exclusively what he was doing, but he was getting real reps at running back. He was getting reps in the slot. He was getting reps at Z, out wide. We were using him in a variety of ways. We were using him in H-back at times, like doing some different things with him. So this is a guy that we are going to have a unique role for this season. I think that's only going to help his NFL draft stock. And I know that the comparison obviously comes, Deebo Samuel, Georgia's version of Deebo. I mean, I guess, maybe. Like, we're going to use him in a lot of different ways. I can certainly say that. So where will he start? I honestly don't know if he'll start to open the season at any position out there. Like, we'll try out the number one offense. If we're in 11 personnel with 3 receivers, I don't know that he'll be out there. He was to open G-Day. Okay, he was open G. So we'll get to the slot here in a minute. He was out there with number one offense in the slot, but we were rotating him and Zechariah Branch like a drive-by drive, essentially, liberally at that time. So there is a world where maybe we just defer to Dylan and say, hey, you're a senior, you play a lot for us, you stuck it out with us. We're gonna honor you and give you that respect by letting you at least start the game. And whether he ends up playing as many snaps as Zechariah Branch slot, who knows? We'll see. But there's a chance he could start there. But I think he's absolutely a guy that can play in the slot. I think he can play out at Z as well. Last year, he was solid for us at receiver. But we also have to remember, he was playing out of position, right? He was playing the X receiver spot by necessity because Robert Thomas went and did his idiotic thing before the season. Colby Young went and had his incident. And so we got no bodies there. Right, and Colby Young was banged up in the fall camp, early parts of fall camp. So yeah, we had to have somebody out there, and Dylan was a guy that could function out there, and he did. He functioned effectively for us. Just wasn't a natural at that spot, right? Like, Dylan's not an alpha guy at receiver. He's a really strong complementary piece that has a lot of versatility in his game, and that's how we're finally going to be able to use him this year. Now that we've went out and we've really added to that wide receiver and really beefed up that room. So I think he'll probably be that number 2 guy, maybe interchangeable there with Noah Thomas at that Z receiver spot. Behind him, a guy that I talked about last week is one of those quiet killers, those secret weapons for Georgia that just not enough people talk about when previewing Georgia coming into this season. and that's London Humphreys, who's now going into year 2 in this Georgia system, a lot like exactly like Colby Young. He missed a couple games last year with injury, but when he got opportunities last year, London Humphreys made plays for Georgia. This guy is not a small guy, 6'2", 200 pounds, so good size, and has elite speed. Like, that's his number one trait. So he's got the size, he's got the speed, dropped the pass here or there, but who did in the receiver room last year? But I also saw him make some tough catches. And at G-Day, guys, he didn't really work with everyone offense much at all. But the number 2 offense, he had quite a day. In the second half, he had at least 2 touchdowns. I want to say 2. I don't think it was 3, but he had 2 touchdowns. It was just making play after play after play out there. And we saw it last year in real games. Week 1, Clemson, catch and run touchdown, right? Against a very Clemson defense wasn't great last year, but they're a very talented defense. So this guy's going to play for Georgia and play a lot. And Kirby Smart, I mentioned last week, his post-scrimmage press conference last Saturday, just I don't know if he could have waxed more poetically about London Humphreys. I mean, guys, it's like we got a special player. Kirby doesn't say those things about guys. He doesn't want to put expectations on players, right? And he straight up, flat out said, we have a lot of expectations for London. They love the guy, and I'm telling you, he can make plays. He's going to play a lot for Georgia. He's certainly going to be a part of the rotation. Now, behind him is a guy that I'm extremely high on, who I think is going to be part of this rotation in some way this year, a lot like his fellow freshman running mate in C.J. Wiley, and that is Talon Taylor, true freshman receiver, another fringe 5-star guy. Wiley and Taylor both fit that bill. He's not a Georgia kid, though. He's coming out of Illinois, went up north and got him out of Illinois. Not as big as Wiley, different kind of receiver, 6'1", about 175, but he is a route runner extraordinaire. He's a true technician at the receiver position, but he's also a great athlete. So he pairs elite technical ability with really, I wouldn't say elite athleticism, but really, really, really good athleticism, okay? So that's what makes him a special player. He's just a smooth operated receiver, really good hands, and he's really almost like the total package out there. Not the biggest guy. I think it's maybe the only knock on him out there, but I think he can play the Z. I think he can also play the slot for us as well. We're just kind of loaded in the slot right now, so I don't know how many snaps there will be for him there, barring injury, knock on wood. But I do think Taylor in a crowded Z receiver room is going to be part of that rotation. I feel good about that, guys. So I'm telling you, he has been a constant theme in the conversations I have had all through fall camp. All through camp. And I saw with my own 2 eyes during the spring, the guy can play. I loved going to high school. He didn't let me down on what I saw from him in the spring. Yeah, like Wiley, his head was spinning at times. I thought he was more consistent than Wiley in the spring because I thought he was more college ready in terms of his ability to go out there and do what you need college receivers to do and not just rely on pure athleticism. So I think he's going to play for us, guys, and I feel pretty strongly saying that. Now, at the slot receiver position, I'm going to go with a 7 on my confidence meter prediction here. I am going to go with Zachariah Branch to open the season as Georgia's starting slot receiver. Now, that's a reversal from what we saw during the spring. Because if you go back to G-Day, starting out there with the number 1 offense in that first series was Colby Young at X, Noah Thomas at Z, and Dylan Bell in the slot. Yes, you had Zachariah Branch rotate in early and often at slot and made some plays there, but it was Dylan who went out there to open the scrimmage, G-Day, whatever it is. And that could be the case again against Marshall week 1. Again, maybe it's just like I say, hey, Dylan, like, hey, man, respect to you for being with us and it's the way, hey, you're a leader in this team. We're gonna give you that honor, right? Maybe. Certainly within the realm of possibility. That's why I can't go a 10 here. I'm gonna go a 7. But Zachariah Branch, of all the conversations I've had throughout the last 2 or 3 weeks of fall camp, man, I'd be hard pressed to say that from what I have heard, and take with a grain of salt, guys, different people see different things and they have different takeaways. But from what I heard, it seems like Zachariah Branch is certainly in the conversation we're having the single biggest fall camp of any player on this team. He did some good things in the spring when I was out there watching, but like all the other new guys, he was learning. It's going from Lincoln Riley's version of the air raid to our pro style system. It's different. It's different. Terminology is different. Plays are different, right? The expectations we have, like blocking on the perimeter, is different, right? So it took him some time. But he's one of those guys, like I've heard from the get-go that he's just a leader out there. Like it's rare to come over from another program as a transfer and like immediately take that role, but he has. He's one of those guys that at various times had that blue cap on to signify fire, passion, energy, which is which is like the calling card of this football team. Like that's our mantra. So based off what I've heard, the type of fall camp that he has had, allegedly, I am going to give him the edge. but it certainly could be Dylan Bell. So I'm going to go with 7 and not any higher than that. But both those guys will play a lot. I also think Dylan, again, is just going to play a lot of different roles for us in this offense. Now, behind Branch and behind Bell, I think those are the clear top two in the slot. There's a couple of options here. So back in the spring, it was Jeremy Bell who was making all sorts of plays. And that was a guy who was like a preferred walk on, not Dylan Bell's brother, a different guy. His brother's name is Micah. But Jeremy was making a lot of plays, right? And I talked about him last week as one of those guys who's maybe a secret weapon for Georgia. And he actually got like real run. He spent basically the entire second half of G Day with the number one offense, made plays like an explosive about 50-yard slot fade catch he made right down about the 1 yard line. So I was coming in the fall thinking, all right, Jeremy Bell, he's going to work himself. Like if he continues that momentum from the spring, he might work himself into a role on this Georgia offense. Now, I will have to be honest with you. I haven't heard as much about Jeremy Bell this fall as I did in the spring. Now, maybe that's a function of people saw him because the guys I'm talking to, they also saw him in the spring. Maybe it's a function of them having seen him in the spring, and that was like their introduction to him. Like that was when they were like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" And now it's kind of just like old hat. Like, yeah, we're just used to this guy making plays. Maybe that's the case, or maybe he just hasn't been as impactful during the fall as he was in the spring. Maybe guys like Zachariah Branch have become more impactful and taken more of the attention. I don't know what to make of that there, but he had a really strong spring. I do think with his athleticism, again, this guy was he's like, 6 foot, wins this GHSA slam dunk contest. Guy's a crazy athlete. I think you're going to have to find a way to get him on the field and get him some touches. I just don't know how many that's going to be. Now, the guy I've heard more about lately, and he probably should have been on my list of like those secret weapons for Georgia. And I'm kind of mad at myself for leaving him off. I let them off because I just hadn't heard as much about him through most of fall camp. In the last week or so, I guess coming on that last scrimmage, I've started to hear more and more about Sokovie White. And I love Sokovie White. I've talked about this guy many a time during the offseason. I talked about him going back this spring. He didn't have as big of a spring as Jeremy Bell did. He didn't really get many snaps at all, if any, if I remember correctly, with the number one offense at G-Day, the way that Jeremy Bell did. But Sokovie is also a playmaker in that slot receiver spot, guys. He's a true slot receiver, 5'9", about 180 pounds. He's got good speed. He just knows how to he can catch the football. He's got strong hands, just knows how to make plays. He's just one of those guys. It's like when I was talking about Dejon Edwards when he came out of high school out of Colquitt County, just a football player. Like it's hard to quantify that, but he just has this knack for making plays and being productive when he gets opportunities. And so I'm high on Sokovie White. I just like with our roommate was in the slot. It's like, okay, where does he get snaps? And I still have questions about that, but I've started to hear more and more about him, so I'm starting to think he might somewhat be in the picture. Maybe these first 2 weeks against these like lesser opponents, if he starts making plays, maybe we'll earn some real snaps against real opponents. But if I had to go back and look at the receivers and give you guys who I think is going to be in the rotation, I got like 8 guys I think are going to be in the rotation for Georgia at receiver. You guys know we rotate a lot at receiver, okay? At the top, you got Colby Young, you got Noah Thomas, obviously. I think C.J. Wiley at X is going to be in the rotation. Dylan Bell, obviously going to be in the rotation. Lennon Humphreys, that's 5, going to be in the rotation. I believe Talon Taylor is going to be in the rotation. That gives you 6. And Zachariah Branch, obviously in the rotation. Those are 7 guys I feel very comfortable with saying are going to get real snaps for Georgia. Some more than others, but they're all going to be in the rotation to a degree. Is there room for an 8th guy? Is there room for a Sokovie White or a Jeremy Bell? Yeah, maybe, right? Now, and the reality is, like, I hate to even put it out there in the universe at this point. I don't want to jinx anybody, knock on wood, but injuries happen. We've seen each of the last 2 years, and I think that probably Sokovie and Jeremy would be like the next guys up there in that rotation. But I think 7 I feel strongly with. 8, whether it's Sokovie or Jeremy Bell, kind of up in the area there, but we'll certainly see as the season gets kicked off. So that's the receiver room. At tight end, it's a 10 here in my confidence, guys. Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky to start the season will be our top 2 tight ends, just like they were a year ago. We haven't brought anybody in to change that, at least to start the season. Oscar now going to his 4th year at Georgia, his 3rd year of essentially being essentially a starter at this point in that inline role. Now, Oscar's a guy that actually absolutely has the ability to go out there and help you in the passing game. In fact, coming out of high school, he was more of a receiving threat than he was a blocker. But when Darnell Washington left, we needed somebody to step into that role. And Oscar, if you don't know, guys, is one of the strongest pound-for-pound guys on our football team. So when you have Brock Bowers, right, going back to 2023, we need somebody to fill that inline role to replace Darnell Washington. Well, it's not going to be Brock Bowers. So the obvious answer has to be, well, it's Oscar Delp. So what do? We beat them up. We got him bigger, got him even stronger, added some weight, and we put less of an emphasis on him catching the football and put more of an emphasis on him blocking. It was a work in progress back in 2023. He was much better last year, not perfect. All of our tight ends struggled at times to block last year. That was one of the issues we had last year offensively. There was a lot of issues. That was certainly one of them. Benjamin Jurasic. It wasn't his fault, man. We turned that guy into something. We tried to turn him into something he was. He was a pass catching tight end, a mover tight end. We tried to make him an inline guy. It didn't work, right? But he was better. Oscar was better last year, and I fully expect going to year 3 in that role, Oscar is going to be a force to be reckoned with. But again, he can also be a threat in the passing game. He's more of an inline tight end for us. Lawson Lucky has filled that role more as the mover tight end that Brock Bowers played, more the pass catching guy, right? Who also obviously blocks in our scheme, like every tight end blocks, but he's more of that mover tight end. And he made some plays for us. He showed that like the athleticism to make that play that where he dragged his foot in bounds on that rollout Gunner had SEC title game. Lawson is a guy that I think is just kind of just beginning to just tap the surface of what he can be as a receiving threat at the tight end position. So I feel awesome saying those two guys are going to be our top 2 tight ends to open the season. A 10 out of 10 in the confidence meter. The third tight end, you guys know we played 3 tight ends, at least 3 tight ends. Right now, I feel very confident. I'm going to go with a 9 on this, saying it's going to be redshirt freshman Jaden Riddell, who I was really high on coming out of high school. Needed a year to put on some weight, but this guy is a big-time pass catcher. He's a guy that has strong hands, can go up and win the 50-50 ball, is really a threat with the ball in his hands after the catch in a way that, honestly, I don't think that Delp and Lucky are. I mean, those guys can make plays after the catch, don't get me wrong, but Riddell's a different level athlete, right? Now we expect our tight ends to break tackles, and all of them can do that. But I think Riddell has like an extra gear in his game than either Lucky or Delp do. So I feel good about that. Now behind them, there's some intrigue here because I love the true freshmen that we brought in this class. I mean, all we do is recruit tight ends, guys. I mean, it's insane what Todd Hartley does in that room. But Ethan Barbour coming in from Milton High School, another Milton guy coming over with CJ Wiley, former teammates at Milton High School. I think back-to-back state titles there. And Elias Williams, Camden County High School, both tight ends, but very different. Elias Williams is like he played basic receiver in high school, whereas Ethan Barbour did play like a real mover tight end role for Milton. And Elias is just a different body. He's a unicorn, 6'7", 245 pounds. Like guys just aren't built like that, right? Whereas Ethan Barbour is still big, not as big, but I think that he was more of a true tight end coming into college in terms of being able to do the things that we expect our tight ends to do and playing that role, like simply putting your hand down the dirt from time to time, which is something that Elias Williams just really didn't do his during his high school career, certainly his senior year. But Elias has really come a long way. It was a work in progress for him in the spring, trying to learn how to play tight end and not receive. Now, running routes, he can do that, but blocking, putting your hand in the dirt, pass protection sometimes, like those things, that was what he really had to get up to speed with. And it took him some time. You saw the flashes, man, because athletically, he's a freak. He is an absolute freak. But it just took him some time to learn the system. He's still learning, but he has really come a long way during the fall, according to what I have been told. He's been making plays, guys, out there. And it was Barbour who was ahead of him in the spring. Right now, from what it sounds like to me, Elias Williams might have moved ahead of Barbour, but it's still like neck and neck there. Both those young freshman tight ends are really talented players. Will they play this year? I think that depends on injury luck, honestly, guys. And like again, I hate to put that out there, but I think we have a strong top 3. Will a 4th guy rotate in from time to time to give somebody a breather? Potentially, yeah. So would that be Elias Williams? Will that be Ethan Barbour? Honestly, I believe that comes down to situational football. If we're in the red zone, I think even like with the number 1 offense, like we get in the red zone, I think we might see some of Elias Williams in those situations. Why? Because he's freaking 6'7". Imagine what you can do, guys. You have on one side, you got out wide at Z, you got Noah Thomas at 6'6". Other side at X, you got Colby Young, who's 6'3" and a big-time contested catch ball guy. And then you put Elias Williams, 6'7", at tight end. Yeah, let's do that, please. How do you stop that? I mean, like you can't double all those guys, right? Like, you don't have enough bodies to do that and still stay functionally sound against the run, structurally sound against the run. You don't have that, right? So I love that. I think situationally we could use some of that role. And guys, I'm telling you, in situational moments and practices, like one of those sessions we have, Elias Williams was getting some red zone looks, right? And you go to the G-Day. We were trying to feed him and Barbour the ball once we got in the red zone with that number 2 offense. with varying degrees of success, but we're trying to feed them the football there. So I think in the red zone, you can see Elias Williams between the 20s, maybe a little bit more of Ethan Barborges. I think he's a little bit more technically sound, though, as although Elias has come a long way as a blocker. So I think those guys are on the outside looking in right now, but I think situationally, they could find roles on the field at times. And in games like this against Marshall and Austin P, I think you'll see a lot more of them. I'm very excited to see what they're able to do in their first real college action. I feel good about Oscar Lawson and Jaden Riddell being that 1-2-3 punch there at the top of the tight end room. All right, moving on to the offensive line here really quickly. I'm going to run through this, guys. All right, left tackle at the 10. Monroe Freeling is starting at left tackle. 0 questions asked. Behind him, Jazar Jackson, who might or might not be suspended for the first couple games. We don't really fully know that. I can tell you with a strong degree of confidence from what I've been told is that guy is being run senseless at practice. It's the dreaded, what Kirby calls internal punishment, or we'll handle it internally. And that means like we're going to run you until you almost die. And that's basically what's happening to Jazar Jackson right now. The guy is just early morning wake up calls, like getting there like 5:30, 6 a.m., just running after practice in the heat here in Georgia. Hasn't been a fun fall camp for him. So we'll see if he's suspended or not. But once he's fully ready to go and cleared to go, I expect him to be, based on what I've heard about how things are shaping up at fall camp. And also what I saw during the spring, him working in, like rotating with the ones at left tackle with Monroe Freeling not available during the spring with that coming back from the labrum surgery he had. But Jazar, I imagine, will be that number 2 left tackle based on what I'm hearing right now. Remember, he's the freak, guys. He was the former like semi-pro college or semi-pro basketball player, 6'10", 350. Last year was his first year playing football in like 4 years, and he made a lot more progress in 1 year than I thought he would. I think the ceiling is wildly high for him, but Monroe is the guy right now. And I think with a full year being that guy in the offseason, he's going to have a big year for us. At left guard, another 10 here. I'm 100% confident it's going to be Micah Morris to open the season, who has started a number of games for us last year. He was the guy that filled in for Tate when Tate went down with injury. He's been like in a 3-man rotation at guard for a couple of years. Now it's his time to be the guy at left guard with Dylan Fairchild moving on to the NFL. Behind him, I think Michael Uini is probably going to be the backup at both guard positions. I think we're having at least another 3-man rotation, maybe a 4-man rotation at guard. Uini at 6'7", 325 will be one of those guys as a redshirt sophomore. As a redshirt freshman. At center, another 10 here, guys. I feel really strongly about who's going to start on the offensive line. Now, how you feel about it, I don't know, but who's going to start? I feel pretty good about this. This has been the same, essentially going back to the spring. Center, it's going to be Drew Bobo. I know you can call it nepotism if you want. That's fine. I actually liked what I saw from Drew Bobo objectively when he got opportunities last year to actually play center. Guard, different story. He's not really a guard. He's a center if he is anything. But he is going to start for Georgia at center. That's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10 in my prediction confidence meter. So, yeah, at right guard. Now, this is the one that's not quite a 10, but pretty close. I'm going to go with Juan Gaston. True freshman Juan Gaston as the starter week 1 against Marshall at right guard. I'm not going to go at 10. I'm still going to go pretty high. I'm going to go with an 8 here, guys. Now, why do I say that? Well, I mean, guys, he started scrimmage 1 and scrimmage 2 at right guard with the number 1 offense. If that is not an indication of what the depth chart is going to look like come this weekend, I don't know what is. Like, what else are we supposed to look at? Those scrimmages are the closest thing we have to simulate an actual game during fall camp. He started both of them, okay? I don't know. Could something happen between last Saturday and this coming Saturday? Yeah, I guess, but not another scrimmage, right? So I can't say it's 100% because he is a true freshman, and sometimes true freshmen hit walls, even if that wall is like a week before the start of the season. But right now, based on everything that I heard all throughout fall camp, I think, and all the conversations I had, I think Juan's going to start, guys, and he's a different dude. I think he's more of a tackle long term. It's weird. Like, I think we have Ernest Green playing tackle. I think he's more of a guard. And we have Gaston playing guard. I think it's more of a tackle long term. But hey, it is what it is. Green's going in his third year as a starter. He's played tackle. And like, we're just, for whatever reason, convinced, come hell or high water, to play Ernest Green at tackle. But Gaston is 6'7", 360 and has really good feet. Now, I had questions about him coming into college out of high school because he has some bad weight. I hate to put it on the guy, but if you go watch his high school tape, guys, he has some bad weight. Like, yeah, he was awesome in high school because he was just bigger and better than everybody else. I mean, he's like SEC caliber player. He's going to start as a true freshman. Of course, he was dominating. But yeah, he was way too big. He needed to drop some weight. To his credit, he did during the spring. When I saw him out there at practice, I was like, well, okay, he's really got into better shape. And apparently he's gotten even better shape. Kirby Sage dropped 30, 35 pounds at this point. Still, I would love to see him getting like the 340, 350 range. 360 still a little big for my liking, but he is 6'7". So there's that, right? Carry that a little bit better. But he's just a road grader, man, with really good athleticism. One of the issues we had last year on the interior was getting consistent movement. A big part of that was due to injuries. Guys like Tate Ratledge and Dylan Fairchild were banged up. They just couldn't really anchor the way they normally would and get that drive the way they usually do. But a healthy Juan Gaskin at 6'7", 360, Micah Moore 6'4", 330. We're going to get a lot more push in the interior this year, guys, if they can stay healthy. We are. Now, behind Gaston, I'm going to go again. Michael Uini and Daniel Calhoun are the two guys behind him. Daniel Calhoun came in the spring as a starter, as a redshirt freshman, got banged up halfway through spring. Then it was Uini and Gaston who were kind of splitting reps at right guard with the number one offense during the spring, the second half of the spring. And to open the fall camp, it was Uini. I was told I'm pronouncing that name wrong. Uini? I know he's Polynesian. I need to hear it. All right, someone spelled it out phonetically for me. I'm one of those guys who needs to hear it. So I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. But Michael Yu, until I hear it, we'll just go with that. He started he started fall as the number one guy there, but quickly Gaston, when we got into the first scrimmage, was the guy starting with the number one offensive right guard. So because of that, I'm going with Juan. I think that Michael Uini is going to get reps as well. Daniel Calhoun might be a four-man rotation guard, but I think that Moore start left guard and Gaston will start at right guard. A right tackle guy I just mentioned, Ernest Green, now going to year 3 as a starter. I have been very hard on Ernest Green. Those longtime listeners of the podcast, you know that. I'm not going to shy away from that. I've been very, very hard on him, and I think fairly so. He was not good early on in his freshman year, but he's come back from a back injury as a redshirt freshman. Got better as that season progressed, which gave me confidence he could be much better in year 2 as a starter last year, but it wasn't the case. He got banged up early and wasn't able to practice much, and he got out of shape and got too big, and he got too slow. His feet were stuck in concrete out there at left tackle, and that was a problem for us. Finally, we realized we just can't play him right now because he's just banged up. And so we had to bench him, and you put Moreau Freeling in there, and he was better. He was also banged up, so that didn't help matters too much, but he was better than Ernest was. So now we move Ernest from left to right tackle, which I feel much better about. I think, as I said, I think he's more of a guard than he is a tackle. I think he'd be an elite guard, but we're convinced to play him that we want to play him at tackle. So if we're going to play him at tackle, right tackle, I'm much more comfortable with that than left tackle. Now, I will tell you guys, what I saw from Ernest in the spring, I was very encouraged by. Very, very encouraged. A healthy Ernest Green. That's not for you. This guy was a top 50 guy nationally coming out of California when he came out of high school. And he got banged up with a serious back injury that required surgery his true freshman year. That set him back. Comes back as a redshirt freshman, starts, wasn't great right away, but got better. Then he got hurt again last year. So if we can have a healthy Ernest Green, I think there's the world where he lives up to those high expectations, the high coming out of high school. And if that's the case, watch out for the Georgia offensive line. And this is a money year for Ernest Green. So he's got himself in better shape. I'm told that he had a really, really strong fall camp, and I hope to God that's the case. I don't want to rip Ernest Green anymore, guys. I'm tired of doing that. I don't want to rip any of our guys. I just try to be objective about it and tell you what I see. And it's been up and down with Ernest. He's been good at times when healthy, but also has had some struggles out there. So I'm hopeful that he has an awesome year. I want to sing his praises all year long, guys. That's what I want to do. And I hope that he gives me reason to do that. Now, behind him, I think Bo Hughley is a guy who's been in the system for a while. Another long guy, 6'7", 295. I think he's a true tackle. Jazar Jackson, Bo Hughley, whether it's left or right tackle. I think they're kind of battling right now to see who's going to be that first tackle off the bench. Week 1, it might be Bo Hughley because Jazar Jackson might or might not be available because of the driving incident he had in the early parts of the summer there. But yeah, I feel really good at Ernest Green. That's a 10 starting at right tackle. Last one here on the offense side of the football, running back. Nate Frazier's the guy. That's a 10 out of 10, okay? Talk about the starter at running back, 0 questions. He was our leading rusher last year. Nate Frazier's the guy. He's a 10, okay? Now, behind him, that's where I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't even know right now because there's a number of options here. My brain tells me, Tyler, true freshmen are not as likely to start as guys who've been around for 3 or 4 years, guys who led other Power 4 programs in rushing a year ago, right? Like, how can that possibly be the case? But here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm admittedly going out on a limb here, and I very, very, very well could end up being wrong here. So take this with a massive grain of salt, a heavy dose of skepticism. I'm telling you that outright. Just take this with a dose of skepticism. But my projection to open the season, yes, week one, as in a couple of days from now, against Marshall, behind Nate Frazier as RB2, I'm going true freshman Bo Walker. I'm calling my shot. I'm going true freshman Bo Walker. Could very well be wrong here. Now let me explain why I'm going Bo Walker. Well, it's pretty simple, guys. Number one, the dude can play. If you've seen him play, you know what I'm talking about. Like, go watch him in high school. If you saw him at all during the spring, I saw him a couple of practices, saw him at G Day. You know what I'm talking about, all right? He was one of the first names to start generating buzz in spring practice, like day one of spring practice, basically, and it just never really let up. And I was skeptical myself, guys. Like when I went there, I was like, come on, like. I mean, yeah, he was. I liked what I saw at high school, but like, it's not like he was some like highly rated guy. He was like a 3-ish star guy. Like, okay, well, we'll see. I get out there and I'm like, okay, yep, mm-hmm, yep, I see. Hype is real. It's legit. Like immediately, guys. And then G Day, what did he do? He went out there and made plays, right? And so great spring. Put himself in position to earn some real steps. But fall can be a different thing, right? Again, freshmen sometimes hit that freshman wall when you get the fall camp. Didn't happen. Okay. Now, again, I didn't get to see any fall camp myself. All right. I got to be honest and open with you there. But everyone I've talked to, every conversation I've had is Bo Walker, Bo Walker, Bo Walker. Talk about the running back position. Like this guy's just making plays. All right. And it's just, that's all he's done since he's gotten to campus. He's been the two most consistent names I've heard at running back going back from the spring and fall are Nate Frazier and Bo Walker. Those are two names I've heard the most consistent buzz about. Honestly, more Bo than Nate, because Nate, like we know we have a Nate, so we don't give him a ton of carry. Like the first scrimmage, he got very few carries in that first scrimmage of the fall because like we know what we have in him. We don't want him to get hurt. We're trying to figure out what it looks like behind him. Got more carries in the second scrimmage and actually made some good plays. But just we kind of know. Like we don't need to put him out there. We know we've got Nate Frazier. It's just like, hey, hold on the football, guys, all right? But I think Bo is going to be the number two guy to open the season. Now, I'm not confident in that, right? Because for a lot of reasons, he's a true freshman. He's a true freshman until you see it, like you don't really know. So I'm going to go with a 2 on my confidence meter here in terms of who's going to be the number 2 back behind Nate Frazier. Now, who could it be besides Bo Walker? Well, there's a number of options here. The guy I thought it would be coming into fall camp, who I told you would be when I was kind of previewing fall camp, is the Illinois transfer Josh McCray, who's going to his final year of college football, led Illinois rushing a year ago. Big back, 6', 240, so a really nice compliment to Nate Frazier. But what hurt McCray is that he wasn't here in the spring. He was a spring transfer portal window guy. He didn't transfer until after the spring. So he was not here for spring practice. And you would think, okay, well, it's fine. Get into fall camp and we'll get you up to speed, right? Well, he missed like the first weekish or so of fall camp with an illness of some sort, which is not great when you have never practiced with Georgia, right? You need reps out there. And then he was like limited at the second scrimmage, wasn't like really going full go there. So I just don't know if he's had enough time on the field getting reps out there to earn the trust of the coaches and like make his case enough to where he's going to be the number 2 guy behind Nate Frazier to open the season. But he is talented. And he's a really nice compliment to Frazier. He's played on the football, was leading rusher for Illinois a year ago. So absolutely, he could be the first guy off the bench or running back behind Nate Frazier. He could be, right? Absolutely. It could be Roger Robinson. I've had some people give me some feedback in the comments, which, hey, I respect. Say, hey, it's going to be Roger Robinson. Maybe. I can't tell you definitively it won't be, but what I can tell you is that with a high level of confidence, when I've been told Rod's still come back from injury, guys. He had 2 really tough injuries he's dealt with the past couple years. And, like, yeah, he's healthy, like, cleared, but, like, what version of Rod are we getting right now? And I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard a ton of buzz about him. That doesn't mean he has been doing great things. Because again, like I can only hear what I'm told, right? I'm not seeing with my own 2 eyes. I wish I could. I wish I was out there this fall, but I didn't get a chance to get out there. So it is what it is. So I have to rely on other people. But I just didn't hear a lot about Rod. And I asked about him, and I was like, "Hey, like, how's Rod looking?" Like, "Oh, he's fine." You know, it wasn't like, "Oh, yeah, like Rod's like he's making plays, man. This is like the Rod of old." Like I haven't heard that. So he's been in the system for a long time. So maybe there's a trust factor there, even though he hasn't gotten a lot of carry. I think what he had 3 or 4 carries total last year. I think is what it was. Not a lot, right? Basically missed the entire year. But maybe it could be him, right? Because like look at Branson Robinson a year ago, right? Like who was the guy out there at first in front of Nate Frazier? It was Branson. Why? Well, because he'd been in the system for a while. Even though he missed like 2 years essentially with injuries, you kind of defer to him. So maybe we defer to Rod. Again, that's a real possibility. Chauncey Bowens is a guy, and kind of like Rod, I don't really ever hear much about like between scrimmages. I don't like no one's like, oh yeah, Chauncey Bowens is tearing it up out there. But I did hear that coming out of the first scrimmage. Like, yeah, he looked like the best of all the running backs. He made the best plays from the running back position in that first scrimmage, and he had a really strong G day as well. But I didn't think he didn't blow me away when I saw spring practice. Like, no one throughout the rest of spring practice told me that he was like killing it out there. But you get out there at G Day and he makes plays. Same thing in that first scrimmage. So maybe Chauncey's one of those guys that when the lights come on, like he's at his best. Maybe he's that like quintessential not a practice player. Like some guys are like that. I don't know. So could it be him? Sure. Some people have said Cash Jones. Guys, Cash is not a standard down guy. Like he's not going to be playing on first and second down. It's just not. That's not what his role is. He's going to play a lot of third downs. He's going to have a role there. He's really good as a third down back. I love Cash as a third down back. But number 2 back off the bench on first and second down, I don't see that. So yeah, I know that this is going on a limb, but I'm gonna go Nate Frazier 1, Bo Walker 2, then Josh McCray, Rod Robinson, Chauncey Bowens behind him. I would probably go Nate, Bo, and McCray as my top 3, and then maybe Rod and Bowens after that. We'll see though. We'll see here in a couple of days. Could very well be wrong on that one. That's my projection. All right, flip things over here real quick to the defense side of the football. Let's go to the edge position. And I'm going to try to go fast with this, guys. Don't give you a lot of explanation there. That's what we do. We do deep dives here for you diehard fans. Edge, very low confidence on this one. I'm going to go with a 3 on my confidence meter here. Chris Jones, redshirt freshman. I'm going to give him the start at Jack linebacker week 1 against Marshall. I say that because in the second scrimmage, he was the guy that opened the scrimmage, allegedly, what I've been told, with the number 1 defense at the Jack linebacker position. He's a guy that was an inside linebacker when we recruited him out of high school, but we're so stacked that position, there just weren't really reps for him behind C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson and Justin Williams and Chris Cole, like all those kind of guys, right? But he's a talented player, and you want to get him on the field. And we just didn't have bodies during the spring at Jack because so many guys transferred out and graduated that we needed somebody to go out there and play. And he played some on the edge in high school, so he was a natural fit to at least try that. I didn't know if it was going to be a long-term move or not, but apparently it is. 6'2", 230. I would still like to see him get a little bit bigger to hold up effectively against the run at that position. And you know what? That's what he's listed as. He might very well be bigger right now. Honestly, I would venture to say he probably is bigger than 230 right now. But he does have some pass rush ability. I actually liked what I saw from him at G-Day. And looking at him at G-Day on the field, I'm pretty sure he's bigger than 230 right now. We'll see. That's just what he's listed at right now. But since he did start the second scrimmage at that position, and I've heard he's continued to put together good practices, I'm going to tentatively go with Chris Jones to open the season as a starter at Jack linebacker. Right behind him, though, is the transfer from Army, Ella Mendoza, who was brought in to be that guy. But, coming to a new system, wasn't here for the spring. It takes time to learn, to earn our coach's trust. I have not heard anything negative about Mendoza. So let me just say that. This is not me predicting Jones. I've heard Mendoza's not what we thought he was. That's not the case. I've heard great things about Mendoza, but I've also heard that he's continuing to learn. He's still getting up to speed with our system, and he, again, wasn't out there for whatever it's worth. And I put a lot of stock in this because that's as close as we get to a game simulation. He was not out there with the number 1 defense in the second scrimmage, which is our last real scrimmage before game 1. Okay, so I'm high on him, and give him 3 or 4 weeks, he might well end up being the number 1 guy at outside linebacker. I think he'll probably be the team leader in sacks this year, but I don't think right now he's going to open as the starter week 1. We'll see. We'll see. That's why I have a low confidence here at 3 because I'm really high on Mendoza and what he can be at 6'4", 250. But right now I'm going to give Chris Jones the edge there. I think Gabe Harris is also a guy who's going to factor in at that Jack linebacker spot. I think he's going to play Jack and 5-tech situation, a lot like we used Michael Williams a year ago because he's bulked up. 6'4", 270 now. Quintavious Johnson got a ton of reps in the number 1 defense during the spring because we didn't have a lot of bodies, and Chris Jones was learning what to do in the spring. 6'4", 255. I think he has a really high future there as well. I just don't think he's going to be the number 1 or 2 guy. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a rotational piece, and we'll get some snaps there. Maybe like Damon Wilson Jr. did a year ago at times. But I think right now it looks like Jones, Mendoza, and Harris situationally would probably be ahead of Quintavious Johnson. But I like what we have at edge. Not a ton of experience, but I like the talent that we have there at that spot. Now moving inside, the 3-tech. We have 3 guys I feel really good about at that 3-tech spot. But I'm going to go with Christian Miller to be the number 1 guy with that first team defense, all right? And I'm going to go with a 9 there. I'm very confident, maybe not full 10, but very confident. He did miss the spring with an injury he suffered at the end of last year. He's coming back from that, but he's played a ton of football for us, guys, and he's finally playing that much more natural position full-time of a 3-tech. He's more of a 3-tech at like 6'4", 305 than he is a 0 nose guard, which is what he was playing his redshirt freshman year behind Nazir Stackhouse. by necessity because we didn't really have anybody else to back up Nazir, but he wasn't like built for that. But that experience is really good for Christian because he's always had the explosiveness. That's why I think he's more of a three tech. He's got that great explosiveness, really strong hands, but he learned how to anchor really well, having to back up Nazir Stackhouse at that zero tech back in 2023. And so now he's a guy with great athleticism and twitch on the interior who can win one-on-one and give you some pass rush from the interior, but can also anchor against the run really well. So I think Christian Miller can work himself into a first-round draft pick type guy, late first round, potentially with a strong year. If he can stay healthy, love him. Now behind him, a guy that I'm also really high on, Xavier McLeod. Year 2 at Georgia, coming over from South Carolina ahead of last year. It was hurt early in the year. Took him a little while to kind of get up to speed. But by the end of last year, guys, he was making plays for us. Like, he was a disruptive force on the interior of our defensive line, creating negative plays in the backfield when Christian Miller went out late in the year. And I'm talking about in some of the bigger games of the season, guys, against Texas, against Tennessee, against Georgia Tech. This guy started to flash what he can do. So he's a guy at 6'4", 315, a little bit bigger than Miller. I think could also slide inside and play some zero tech for us, but really good athlete, really good athleticism there on the interior, and has really strong punch. Like, he's got strong, very heavy hands there. So I think McLeod's gonna be really good for Georgia as well. So those are the top two guys at the three tech for me. Behind them, though, is a guy that's going to play. And that's true freshman Elijah Griffin. I don't think he's going to start. He's not going to start right away. But at 6'4", 310, I believe he's the next great Georgia defensive lineman. I believe that, guys. He's too talented to keep off the field. So I think we're going to have a three-man rotation at that three-tech spot. And, guys, ideally, we have our, like, traditionally under Kirby Smart, even our best defensive linemen play like 30% of our defensive snaps. I always go back to Jordan Davis, guys. 2021 national championship year, he played less than 30%, a little bit under 30% of our defensive snaps. And that was the first round draft pick. So ideally, when we have guys that we can trust to roll in and out at that position, we're going to roll in and out. So when they're out there, they can go full go, 100%, right? So Griffin's going to play, and I think his snaps are only going to increase as the season progresses. It's just you look at the situation there. You got Miller, McLeod ahead of him. I think both those guys are really, really good, and they're older. They're more physically there than Elijah is right now, although he's in really good shape right now as a true freshman, but I think he'll play just not ahead of Miller and McLeod right now. At the nose position, this is Jordan Hall's money year, guys. Let's not forget, big-time five-star guy coming out of high school, a couple years back now, going to year 3. Basically missed all of last year. Played a handful of snaps late last year, but suffered 2 stress fractures, one on each leg during fall camp, and I mean, when you're that big, guys, it costs an entire year, right? And so that was a bummer for him, man. And you could tell, like, in his first press conference of the spring, like, you could tell he was a changed guy. Like, he was humble, and there was he's like, man, I'm hungry, but also, like, I have a new appreciation for being out here and being a part of this team. So I think Jordan is going to have a huge year for us on the interior, and I think he's got some versatility. I think he can also play inside at 3, because he's got athleticism too, man. He's 6'4", 320, so he's kind of a tweener. He's not as big of a Jordan Davis type guy at the zero tech, but bigger than your average 3 tech. So I think he can play a little bit of both, but I think he's going to be the guy at nose to open the season. That's what he was at G-Day. I'm going to go with a 9 there. He's going to be our starting nose. Behind him, we have some guys that are built for that spot. I think they're going to be big-time players for us in the future, and they're going to help us this year. That's Nnamdi Gboko, Nazir Johnson, both guys redshirt freshmen, both about 6'4", 340. They are built. They were brought in to play that position, and I really liked what I saw from both of them, especially Gboko during the spring. And he was getting some reps with the number 1 defense. And yeah, talking about a space eater that can eat those double teams and free up our linebackers the way that Jordan Davis did back in 21 and 2020 as well. Yeah, that's been one of the missing pieces for the Georgia defense in recent years. I think we have that in all 3 of those guys, but certainly in Gboko and Johnson as well. Let's move to the 5 tech here. Gabe Harris, I mentioned at the Jack linebacker spot. I do think he's going to play a role on both spots, Jack and 5 tech. Right now, I project him to start at the 5 tech in our base package. We don't run our base package, but in our nickel package on standard downs. At 6'4", 270, he's added the weight I think he needs to add to be more effective against the run there at that spot. And also has the athleticism to still give us some pass rush from that position. I think he's going to have a huge year, guys. I mean, I know he's not the name value of Mykel Williams. I know Mykel was banged up last year. I don't think there's going to be a massive drop-off there. I'm really high on Gabe Harris, guys. I really believe in this guy. So I'm going to go with a 10 that he's going to be our starter at 5 tech. Behind him, we have 2 young players that I'm really, really high on. But they're young. They're inexperienced. They're going to play a lot for us. First one, Joseph Jonah Ajanye, 6'4", 275. This is a guy that's still relatively new to football. Actually got some run with the number 1 defense early last year as a true freshman. Then hurt his foot and missed basically the last, 9 or 10 games of the year. So he ended up redshirting, but 6'4", 275. This guy's future is incredibly bright. His best football still very much ahead of him. Didn't start playing football until like midway through his high school career, guys. So he's still getting better and better, but physically, the length he has, the athleticism, the power he has that position, it's off the charts. He's going to be a big-time player at that position. I think it could be as early as this year. And then one of the guys has been maybe the surprise of fall camp, and that's true freshman J.J. Hanna, 6'4", 290, another guy like Joseph Jonah-Janye, very new, even newer to football, right? So he's coming over from Germany, not Nigeria, and he didn't start playing football until like 2 or 3 years ago. And his junior tape, I watched it, and I remember when he committed, I did a whole video on this, and I was like, hey, like, I love this guy. His raw potential is off the charts, but he's just not there yet. He's got to learn how to play football. But you could see as a junior, like, the raw tools were so obvious. And then you see a senior tape, like, oh, okay, he's still growing, but he's starting to put it together. What's going to happen when this guy gets to college? Now, since he was so new to football, I had no expectations that he would really help us at all year one. I thought maybe give him a year or two, and this guy could be a big-time player for Georgia. Year one, I didn't expect it, but he has been apparently just a monster all throughout fall camp, guys. And as a freshman, you got to show, like, you got to prove it as a freshman. Apparently, he has done that, has gotten reps, like real reps, with the number one defense in both scrimmages. So he is going to play at that spot. He's going to be in that rotation. I think the fact that he has emerged the way he has and the confidence that we have in Joseph Jonah-Janye is really going to allow us to be freed up to move Gabe Harris around situationally and have him play a little bit more of that jack linebacker spot at times to give us some more depth there. Because if we didn't have trust in Ajanye and Hanna, then like we'd have to play Harris more at the 5 tech. But I think we have a growing amount of trust with those guys, which is really going to free us up to do some creative things with Gabe Harris within our defense. Inside linebacker, the top two guys, C.J. Allen's a 10. He's going to start, obviously. He's maybe the leader of this defense, 6'1", 235. Going to his second full year as a starter, started about half the season as a true freshman. I never thought he was as good as a freshman as a lot of people did. I saw really encouraging signs. He was a true freshman, but he got a lot better last year, was a lot more disciplined last year, became a leader, and this year I'm expecting like a potential Buckus Award type year for Georgia with C.J. Allen. I mean, hey, the year 3 rule with Georgia inside linebackers, right, under Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann, it can well be C.J. Allen's year. Very, very high on him. He's a guy that has some good athleticism, can run sideline to sideline. Also, stout enough, good between the tackles. Love him. Got better in coverage last year. So I think he's going to have a huge year for Georgia. So that's a 10. Behind him, the other inside linebacker position, I'm going to go Raylan Wilson, another year 3 guy. Started a number of games for Georgia. Play a lot for us. I'm going to go with an 8 for him as a starter. All right, I'm confident it'll be Wilson and Allen to start, but the talented second-year guys behind them are pushing. They're pushing. If they unseat anybody, it'll be Raylan, although I love Raylan Wilson. I think he's an incredible athlete. And now going to his third year, I hope like his issue has been more like eye discipline and just knowing what to do out there consistently. I'm hopeful that that's fixed this year because when he knows what to do, the guy is unbelievably talented. But Chris Cole and Justin Williams, second-year guys. Chris Cole got more playing time last year, played about 11% of our defensive snaps. Justin Williams played about like 3% of our defensive snaps. Didn't play much at all last year. He was a little too thin. He was listed like 6'2", 220 in the spring. Guys, he's bigger than that right now. He's added a lot of really good weight, and he is explosiveness personified at the inside linebacker position. Former number 1 inside linebacker in the country, top 10 guy in last year's recruiting class. Chris Cole, another 5-star guy in that class as well. His game is versatility. He can play off the ball inside linebacker, but he can also get up on the edge and rush the passer and be one of the guys, another guy that we use situationally as a pass rusher, maybe at that jack position, probably more so on third downs. But he's also a guy with his athleticism and his length has a bit of cover in space. He did a really good job of blanketing Gunnar Helm against Texas in both games last year, especially that first game in Austin. And he can play situationally against teams that want to go heavy personnel against us. He can play star as well. We've done that with some of these jack linebackers and some of these inside linebackers with the length that a guy like Cole has. So when the offense goes heavy personnel, what do you do defensively? Well, if you don't go base packages, well, you need some beef out there at that star, right? If not, they're going to try to run the ball down your throat because they're trying to create mismatches, right? Well, when you have a hybrid player like Chris Cole, you have him playing star, it's hard to create a mismatch. Like if he's going against a real slot receiver, that's a tough matchup. But if you're trying to go heavy personnel and get a matchup on a tight end with an outside linebacker that you think you're going to win, that can be tough for a defense to handle. But a guy like Chris Cole makes that a moot point because he is your answer to matchup problems that the offense try to present the defense. So I think he's going to play a variety of roles on our team. and I love what he brings to the table. I don't think either one's going to start to open the season, but there's going to be a four-man rotation. I think we're also going to use Justin Williams to rush the passer on third down, so he's too explosive not to. So I love all those guys. I think they're all going to fill a role for Georgia inside linebacker. At cornerback, Dalen Everett, it's a 10. He's going to start 6'1", 190, going into year 3 as a starter. Case closed. Going to start there. The other cornerback spot, this is one I still have some doubts about. It's been a battle, man. It was probably the position battle of fall camp, and that was between Daniel Harris, Ellis Robinson IV, and DeMello Jones. Ellis and DeMello both being year 2 players. Daniel Harris started the last couple games of last year, taking over for Julian Humphrey, who, was not it. Let's just say that. Harris was the guy through most of the spring, and they were all spending time at various points working with the number 1 defense, going back to the spring. That was the case open fall camp as well. You go to the first scrimmage, it was Daniel Harris going out there first with the number 1 defense at that cornerback spot opposite Dalen Everett. Second scrimmage, it was Ellis Robinson IV, okay? And apparently the coach liked what they saw, because come back the next practice after that, he's still the first one out there with the number 1 defense. So based off that, even though it's gone back and forth, I'm going to project right now that Ellis Robinson IV, former number 2 player in the country in the 2024 recruiting class, is going to open the season as Georgia's starter opposite Dalen Everett at that other cornerback spot. I'm not super confident on that because it has gone back and forth. I think this is a battle that will continue to play itself out during the early parts of the season. But to open the season, somebody's got to start. I think it's going to be Ellis. I'm going to go with a 6 on my confidence meter there. At the star position, Janelle Aguero is a guy that I was extremely high on coming out of high school. Tyke Smith, though, said, hold up, hold my beer, when Janelle was a freshman back in 2023. Janelle was sick the first game against Clemson last year, but he started thinking about 5 games for us a year ago. Now, he did get subbed out on third downs, and we put Malachi Starks up there in that slot position, or the star DB position at that time. But Janelle had a really strong spring, guys, and had a really, really strong fall camp from what I'm told. He is going to be the guy. He is brought in to be a star defender for us, guys. It's hard to find body types like that have the athleticism to cover in space, but also have the physicality to fit against the run in the box at times, and that's what Janelle brings to the table. So I'm going to go a 10 with Janelle Aguero to be the starter at star. Behind him, it's a little murkier here. I'm going to go, call me crazy here, but this is a guy I just heard so much about during fall camp. I'm going to go true freshman Rayshawn Dinkins. I'm going to go with a 1 on my confidence meter here because he's new to the system. But I've heard so much buzz about him. The coach is loving this guy, and I loved him going out of high school. 5'11", 190. Was not here for the spring. It was a summer enrollee, not an early enrollee. So that gives me a little bit of pause here, but he just had a monster fall camp from what I was told. And so I'm going to go tentatively with him as a backup behind Janelle Aguero. Although Ja'Cory Thomas, who is going to factor in the safety spot here in a minute, he could be the backup at star. Because remember last year, guys, he was that guy kind of backing up Janelle Aguero at the star last year. I know Malachi played their situation on third downs, but it was actually when Janelle couldn't start week 1, it was Ja'Cory Thomas who actually got the start against Clemson. So that's a possibility there as well. Kyron Jones in the mix there as well. Safety, last spot here. We know KJ Bolden's a 10. He's going to start, hands down, one of the leaders on this defense. Could be a potential All-American type guy this year. So he's going to start there. The other safety, this is the one where I probably have thrown my hands up the most. Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. All right. I thought it was going to be Ja'Cory Thomas coming in the spring, coming in the fall. Right. He's been going into year 4. I thought it could be like a Chris Smith career trajectory. You wait your time, you worked, and finally your turn comes, and boom, you make the most of it. Right. But Adrian Maddox, transfer from UAB, has had a lot to say about that. I thought it might be Zion Branch. I love the way he's put together physically, but Adrian Maddox is the one that I've heard the most about of those transfers in the secondary coming in this year. And he started the first scrimmage as the starter at safety, opposite KJ Bolden. But then it was Ja'Cory, second scrimmage. So they're kind of going back and forth there. This is one of the situations where I'm just going to default to Ja'Cory Thomas because he's been, if it's as tight as it seems to be there, and it does seem to be very tight going back and forth starting with the number 1 defense, I'm going to defer in that case to the guy who's been in the system for 4 years and who's played for Georgia on the field. So I'm going to go with Ja'Cory Thomas to open the game against Marshall as the starter. But do not write that in stone. I think, like the cornerback spot, this is a battle between Thomas and Maddox that will continue to play out through the early part of the season. So I think they're going to both play a lot. It might be a series-by-series rotation the first game or two against Marshall and Austin Peay. The schedule kind of lends itself to that. But I'm going to go with Ja'Cory Thomas with a confidence of 1 1. That's my least common projection going into week 1 here. So it could be Max. Easily could be Max, but I'm going to go Thomas just based on the fact he's been in the system longer, and that seems to be a very, very tight battle there. And then Zion Branch, coming over from USC. Jaden Harris was a starter at Miami last year. They're still in the mix there at both star and safety, backing up KJ, backing up Thomas and Maddox. But right now, I think they're on the outside looking in at the battles at both of those positions. But all right, guys, there you go, man. That's as comprehensive of a look as you're going to get at Georgia's depth chart entering this 2025 season. At least I think it is. That was the goal here, guys. That was the mission. So if you're a diehard Georgia fan, this is what you can expect here on this channel all season long. Content produced for you guys, not the casuals, for you diehards. So if you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe right now, turn those notifications on, like this video if you enjoyed it, comment, all that stuff, guys. If you agree with me, hey, I'd love to hear it. If you think I'm wrong in a spot, like if you don't think Bo Walker's going to start, I get it. Let me know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you. I cannot wait for Saturday to get here. It's almost here, guys. So enjoy the week. It'll be here before you know it. But I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.